Hello everybody and welcome to the fifth video in our series of videos on the Middle Ages. As always, we begin with our learning outcomes, so by the end of this presentation you guys should know what the four main ways of attacking a castle were. You guys should know the best way to survive a siege, and finally you guys should know what the keywords siege, catapult, undermine, siege tower, battering ram and trebuchet mean. So like I said, today we're going to be looking at something that everybody should know how to do, and that is how to successfully capture a castle. This was common practice in the Middle Ages, and when someone tried to capture a castle, that is what we call a siege. Now, there are four main ways that we will be discussing. The first would be to surround the castle and to starve the people who were in the castle. They would make sure that nobody could leave. They would cut off food and water supplies and wait until their stores ran out. They would also use a catapult to launch in fireballs at the bailey to cause chaos, or even they'd launch in dead horses and diseased animals and human beings to spread disease within the place. You see here is a catapult being used here in a siege. The only way that you could really break a siege would be usually to wait for reinforcements to come in and hope that you would surround the attacking force who were laying siege to your castle. Or also the people defending the castle, if they had time, they would usually burn the surrounding countryside around the castle so that when the attackers came, they wouldn't have easy supplies. And if their supplies ran out before the supplies in the castle ran out, then they might lift the siege. The second way would be trying to scale the walls. They would put these large scaling ladders up against curtain walls and trying to climb over the battlements. This is an artist's impression of Joan of Arc, who we were talking about in the last video, attacking at the siege of Orleans. They would have to move fast up these ladders so the ladder wouldn't be pushed down, or that they wouldn't have boiling water or missiles fired at them through the murder holes, which we met in a video before as well. They would also use siege towers, which could be as big as this, which would be pushed up against the curtain wall, and people would jump out of the siege towers and over the walls into attack. However, moats made it quite difficult to use this form of attack, and sometimes they would try to make sure that they would build a little bridge to try to get the thing over, but the defenders of the castle would always try to be firing missiles and stuff like that to make sure it didn't happen. We talked about how the most vulnerable part of the castle was the entrance, and the third way was by breaking down the doors at this gatehouse. Usually to do this, they would use instruments like a battering ram, which we can see here. The final way we are going to look at how to take a castle would be literally to bring the walls down. Men would sometimes dig a tunnel under the wall. They'd put a wooden structure so that the tunnel wouldn't collapse on them, and then when they had compromised the integrity of the walls enough, they would set fire to the wood and the walls would come crashing down. However, the most terrifying weapon that was used to bring in walls was a trebuchet, which you can see in action here. It would fire over 900 kilos or 90 kilos over 300 meters and could do serious damage to a wall. The most fearsome trebuchet ever created was called Warwolf, and it was built by Edward I in his attack on Stirling Castle in 1304. It took 30 wagons to carry it, and it took over 50 men to assemble it a couple of days. It was part of Edward's attempts to make Scotland part of his kingdom during the First Scottish War of Independence. Ultimately, the Scottish won this particular war thanks to Robert the Bruce in 1324, but the introduction of this weapon really upped how devastating warfare could be. The trebuchet was also used in during the Crusades, and they would have attacked a place called Acre, which we'll be looking at in a different video as well. It really was a devastating weapon. Here's an artist's impression of what using a lot of these techniques. What you can see the battering ram there at the gatehouse. You can see a siege tower has been brought. You can see in the background there's a trebuchet there as well, and all of these techniques together would have really caused a lot of fear within the castles they were attacking. And that left one question: once you have captured the castle, what do you do with it then? So that brings us to the end of our presentation. So by now you guys should know the four main ways of attacking in the castle. You guys should know the best way to survive a siege, which again, as we talked about, was to burn the surrounding countryside or to wait for reinforcements to come. And finally, you guys should know what the key words siege, catapult, undermine, siege tower, battering ram, and trebuchet mean. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys got something good from this video.